7th reason. 7. Celebrating those who killed and converted millions of Hindus. To visit Nalanda, the ancient place of learning and arguably India's greatest cultural heritage, you need to board a train from Delhi and get down 50 miles from Patna at a place called Bakhtiyarpur. From Bakhtiyarpur, it is a brief and pleasant journey to Nalanda. And when you reach this hallowed place, when you stroll about its manicured lawns and thin brick facades and ruins, you will get to know how this magnificent temple of knowledge and wisdom was charred to the ground by a barbarian, how thousands of scholars perished in the fires that burned for months, how millions of books were reduced to cinders, how a civilization the world envied and admired as a Vishwaguru was lost forever. And you will also get to know that the barbarian who executed this barbaric act was none other than Bakhtiyar. Yes, Bakhtiyar. And we have named not only a railway station, but also a city in his honor. Our destruction that even Bakhtiyar could not manage in his lifetime is now complete. 1,000 years later, that we have honored this barbarian is not hurtful enough. What hurts most is that unsatisfied and unsatiated with this hideous self-flagellation, we have endeavored to descend a step further into the dungeons of distorted history and peddled the narrative that Bakhtiyar did not even destroy or set fire to Nalanda. Instead, we have blamed a couple of Hindu beggars for burning down the great city of Nalanda. That's right. Not an invader or his invading army of tens of thousands of barbarians, but rather two gawky little Hindu beggars were responsible for destroying the greatest ancient university there ever was. This is neither the time or place, and nor do I have the inclination to narrate to you in detail the sorry figments of the leftist historian D.N. Jha's lobotomized mind and its imaginings. The fact that he never quoted a primary source for his assertion, the fact that the first English translation of Jha's source, Pak Sam John Zhang, was carried out as late as 100 years ago, the fact that it never even mentions the two Hindu beggars. But the fact remains that the Jhas have won this war of narratives because Bakhtiyar lives. For the sake of Islam, I became a wanderer. I battled infidels and the Hindus, and I was determined to become a martyr. Thanks be to Allah, I became a Ghazi. This is a direct quote of Babur from his Babarnama. There is a Babur road in central Delhi, barely a mile from the Prime Minister's residence. Babur lives. Hindu gods and their idols are as dirty as they are ugly and horrible to look at. And witnessing the destruction of temple idols gives me so much joy. The man who said this was also the chief architect of the Goa Inquisition that led to the conversion, torture, and murder of thousands of Hindus. His name was Saint Francis Xavier. Every year, millions of Indians, including our Hindu nationalist Prime Minister Narendra Modi, venerate him. Saint Francis Xavier lives. Sikandar Shah Miri, 1389 to 1413, who commissioned Jamia Masjid and is still eulogized and worshipped in Kashmir, collected 3 khirwars or 210 kilograms of sacred thread from Kashmiri Hindus before he burned them. A single sacred thread weighs 7 grams. Again, I shall leave it to the mathematicians among you to calculate the sheer scale of this genocide. But Sikandar Shah Miri lives. I will raise these Ansagar Hindu temples to the ground. I have come to India to fight the holy war against the infidels, unquote. The man who said this was Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, the Hanafi Sufi saint who fought alongside the demonic Muhammad Ghori and unsparingly converted Hindus. Every year, millions of Indians, including our Hindu nationalist Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, offer a chadar at his mazar and venerate him. Moinuddin Chishti lives. We know more about the Mughals than our warriors. We know more about Mughals than we know about Shivaji and Rana Pratap and Prithviraj Chauhan. Why? Because history that is written by the victors is peddled by the vanquished, and we have been vanquished. This is a country where people still go and pray at the grave of the monster Aurangzeb who beheaded Guru Tegh Bahadur, decapitated Sambhaji Maharaj, demolished Kashi Vishwanath, murdered 4.6 million Hindus. This is a country where Guru Arjan Dev was forced to sit on a hot plate and literally cooked alive by the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. And what do? We immortalize Jahangir in our films as that affable, feather-toying romantic Salim. This is a country where a celebrated historian, Ram Guha, didn't want Delhi roads to be named after Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, the man who birthed an empire stretching from Peshawar to Plassey, because in Guha's words, he was a, quote, little-known regional figure and a feudal lord who endorsed caste hierarchies, unquote. This is a country where we eulogize the invaders who over century after relentless century perpetrated the largest genocide in human history and murdered 80 million of us. A figure arrived at authoritatively by historians K.S. Lal and Will Durant. This is a country where Kareena Kapoor and Saif Ali Khan take pride in naming their son Taimur. Where Akhilesh Yadav takes pride in having the nickname Tipu. Our history has been written by those who hated Hindus, Hinduism and Hindustan. Our history is being written by those who hate Hindus, Hinduism and Hindustan. There are hundreds of examples, but just one would suffice. Tipu Sultan. Read his manifesto, written in his own words. It is a terrifying proclamation calling for all Muslims to come together to wage jihad. Annihilation of the infidels is our sacred duty, he writes. The Hindus of Coorg suffered a particularly brutal onslaught. Murders, tortures, forced conversions. Even dead Hindus were converted, even dead Hindus. Tipu destroyed more than 800 temples, 27 churches, captured 60,000 Christians, converted 30,000, killed thousands. Chroniclers Lewis Rice and R.D. Palsokar believed the figure could be as high as 8,000 temples. Descendants of Mandayam Iyengars do not celebrate Diwali till this day. Ever wondered why? Tipu butchered them on this day. Read Bartholomeo's personal account of Tipu Sultan's butchery in Calicut. Men, women and children were paraded naked and trampled by elephants. And yet, we call Tipu a symbol of communal harmony. We cheer when the statue of the evil racist Leopold is demolished in Belgium. But we celebrate Tipu Jayanti. Because tyrants who murder Hindus are not tyrants but heroes. Praising Tipu is like praising King Leopold for building roads and ports in Congo, balancing out ivory trade and a million murders. There is no difference between Tipu Sultan apologists and Holocaust deniers. Twisted minds in need of immediate medical intervention. And yet they exist in their millions. In years to come, I am sure Yaqub Memnun's grave would become as popular a worshipping place as Aurangzeb's is today, visited and prayed at by politicians and film stars. The same Aurangzeb who was worse than Baghdadi 350 years before ISIS. The genocide he perpetrated claimed, as I said, 4.6 million Hindu lives. If an incident could muster a million spine-chilling imaginings, it would be that of the one in 1675 under broad daylight in Chandni Chowk where Guru Tegh Bahadur was beheaded on the orders of Aurangzeb. And yet, we have cities and roads named after him. We have his tomb consecrated and turned into a memorial. 75 years have gone, but we still haven't got independence from brainwashing and servitude. And that is why in years to come, Yaqub Memon would be celebrated just like Aurangzeb is. After all, tens of thousands attended his funeral, tears flowing down their cheeks. People will come and pray at his grave, seek his blessings. From the Aryans to Aurangzeb, from St. Xavier to Shivaji, our historians have chosen what to hide, what to invent, and what to disclose. The singular reason for this is the craving for patronage of an ideology, a government, an ecosystem, or a clique. Villains are made into heroes and heroes into villains. We like it this way. Our historical figures are to be worshipped. They are to be made into gods, into atlases who carry the weight of our ideologies and our biases on the nape of their necks. History as myth, myth as history. It confirms to what we really are, unsure of our present, fearful of our future, fear and trembling. That is what this is. And the whole nation chugs along on this dead yet simmering coal, a journey to nowhere, slow, halting, tiring, until you realize what the grand plan always is, to appropriate invaders and to forget our own heroes. How else do we explain appropriating foreign destructive ideologies and their proponents like Karl Marx, Mao, and Che Guevara? Can you now appreciate how reading and imbibing a particular history can weaken a nation? Because when you eulogize monsters like Che and Mao and Pol Pot, you also decide to walk on their paths. You weaken the nation. Look at what the communists did to Bengal. Look at what they did to anything they have touched, and they still venerate Stalin and Mao. Mao, who killed 63 million of his own people. And if you think I am talking abstract and philosophical gibberish, recall who wanted to scuttle the Indo-US nuclear deal, who was against the Green Revolution, against river linking, against dams. Recall who forbade the setting up of blood donation camps during the 1962 war with China. Recall who hailed the Tiananmen Square massacre. Recall who was against liberalization. They are still very much among us in our society, in our committees, in our universities, in our parliament. The more we are ignorant of our history, the more we are taught it wrongly, the more we clear the path for them to return to power. History for us is either to be hidden or invented. We tell and retell what we like of it, and of what we don't, we scrunch it up and slip it under the mattress like a plastic bag. For the victors, a quill to write history with. For the vanquished, the burden to peddle it. But we forget history is not homeopathy. It does not work as a placebo when diluted. It simply disappears. Every city a Hindu lives in, every school he attends, every university he goes to, every road he walks on, he cannot escape being confronted by his cruel past that raped, mutilated, murdered, pillaged, and converted him. He cannot escape being humiliated by it, pummeled again by it, by the force of history, condensed and packed into a punch that lands and lands and lands and keeps on landing until the Hindu is lying face down on the canvas, blood-laced spit bubbling from his lips. This is a Hindu Rashtra, they say. I ask them, is there a Hitler Road in Tel Aviv?